It was supposed to be a routine quarterback workout. Just another day at training camp. Another set of reps. Another opportunity to evaluate young arms in the dog days of August. Third-round pick Dillon Gabriel was expected to own the session. After all, he was a presumed future of the Cleveland Browns. A smart, accurate passer with enough mobility and a respectable college resume. He was the safe choice. The guy with a plan. But that plan, it got ripped to shreds the moment Shedeur Sanders stepped onto the field. What was expected to be a formality turned into a statement. Because Shedeur didn't just outperform Dillon Gabriel. He redefined the event. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. Lights, camera, leadership. There's a difference between having talent and having presence. Gabriel came into the workout with his head down and his reps memorized. Mechanics tight. Delivery clean. Just enough zip on the ball to turn heads, but not enough to own the field. Shedeur, he walked out like the cameras were rolling, and the stadium was packed. Even if it was just practice, his footwork looked sharper than it ever had. His throws, crisp, calculated, and cocky in all the right ways. And his vibe, undeniable. He wasn't just trying to win the job. He was taking the spotlight and refusing to give it back. One drill in particular sealed the tone. A rollout to the right, defender closing in, eyes downfield, and boom, a strike to the sideline, right between the numbers. Same play Gabriel had just run 2 reps earlier and underthrown. Coaches didn't need to say anything. The difference was loud, even in silence. The swagger gap. Let's talk about what nobody wants to say out loud. Charisma matters. It shouldn't, at least not entirely. But in 2025, your quarterback is more than a guy who calls plays. He's a brand ambassador, a locker room voice, a PR filter, and the centerpiece of your social media strategy. And while Dillon Gabriel has plenty of solid qualities, he's smart, respectful, and diligent. He doesn't own a room. Shedeur does. He doesn't just throw dimes. He throws them while smiling, backpedaling, and talking to his receiver before the ball even hits his hands. He runs drills like he's been doing them for 10 years. His body language screams, QB1, even when he's repping with the twos. And that difference? It's not just style. It's leadership. Jimmy Haslam saw everything he needed. Let's cut to the sideline for a second. Because standing off to the side, arms crossed, expression unreadable, but eyes locked in, was Browns owner Jimmy Haslam. This wasn't some bored owner scrolling through text messages or leaving early for a donor dinner. Haslam was watching closely, and when Shedeur dropped his 3rd deep ball touchdown of the day into the bucket, even Haslam couldn't hold the poker face. He gave a nod. You know the one. Okay, maybe we were wrong, nod. And that's when you knew the energy shifted. Because when the owner starts reconsidering who the future is, everything changes. Dillon Gabriel, solid but not surging. Now, let's be clear. Dillon Gabriel isn't a bust. He's got NFL qualities. He reads the fences well. He can run a West Coast scheme. And he has a quick release that's built for timing routes. But the gap between him and Shedeur is less about what's missing and more about what's not exploding. Gabriel looks like a quarterback. Shedeur looks like a franchise. Gabriel makes the right reads. Shedeur makes the right reads and turns them into ESPN segments. That's the difference between QB2 and QB1, between safe and special. And in this workout, that difference was visible on every snap. Gabriel's passes were fine, short completions, a few nice checkdowns, some timing throws across the middle. But after each rep, silence. Then Shedeur steps up, same play, same defense, touchdown, again and again, and now everyone's talking. That's what Gabriel's up against. Not a better thrower, not a better resume. A phenomenon in the making. Shedeur's cerebral game. Why the coaches are reconsidering. One moment that stood out to insiders during the workout came during a 2-minute drill simulation. Shedeur audibles at the line, not just once, but twice, based on disguised pressure from the defense. He repositions the back, shifts the tight end, adjusts the slot route, and still gets the ball out on time. Result? Touchdown. That's not just preparation. That's command. You don't see that from most rookies. Heck, you don't even see that from some fourth-year starters. But Shedeur's cerebral approach is a result of years of high-level coaching, endless film sessions, and a deep understanding of not just how to play quarterback, but how to own the mental chess match that comes with it. Dillon Gabriel, for all his talents, isn't there yet. He's still processing, still adapting. Shedeur, he's already in the matrix. What the showcase really meant. This wasn't just a camp workout. It was a coming-out party. The Browns didn't plan it this way. No one expected the cameras to follow Shedeur this closely. But by the end of the session, everyone, from coaches to teammates to ownership, was talking about one thing. Did we get this quarterback room backward? Because that fifth-round pick just looked like the most ready-made rookie in the entire AFC. And now, the pressure's not on Shedeur to prove himself. It's on the staff to explain why he isn't taking more reps. Brand value meets field value. You want to talk modern NFL? Then you need to talk marketability. And here's the truth. Shedeur Sanders is not just a quarterback. He's a brand package. His NIL empire at Colorado didn't vanish when he entered the league. If anything, it's grown. His interviews trend. His merch moves. His training clips hit 1 million views within 24 hours. He is, for lack of a better term, prime-time ready, pun very much intended. Now, teams don't have to care about that. But owners, they do. Because quarterbacks don't just lead teams anymore. They lead franchises. And Shedeur, whether Cleveland wants to admit it or not, already feels like the face of one where the competition stands now. As it stands, Gabriel still has the depth chart advantage. He's getting more first-team reps. He's seen as a safer option to back up a veteran. But every time Shedeur touches a field, that gap closes. He's stacking performances, stacking influence, stacking confidence from the locker room, from the fans, and now, possibly from the top of the org chart. The Browns have to ask themselves, are we developing for future, or are we already watching it? Because Shedeur isn't knocking at the door anymore. He kicked it open and asked where the playbook is. Final word, the spark has been lit. So now what? Do the Browns stay rigid, play the politics, and let Gabriel take the job by default? Or do they lean into the obvious momentum and let the better quarterback rise, regardless of when he was picked? Because make no mistake, this isn't just about Shedeur versus Gabriel. It's about an organization deciding whether they still believe in hierarchy or whether they're ready to believe in greatness. And if Jimmy Haslam's expression during that workout is any clue, the tide is turning. What makes this saga even more compelling is the way it's unfolding in real time. It's not like Shedeur Sanders came with hype, so overwhelming that expectations were sky high. Quite the opposite. He was a fifth-round pick, a roll of the dice, a depth piece with a famous last name, and just enough intrigue to make for a solid camp storyline. But now, it's not a storyline anymore. It's the story. And as the Browns' quarterback situation teeters on the edge of an identity crisis, the people around the league, those in the locker room, those in the owner's box, and even those watching from rival sidelines, are seeing it happen before their eyes. Shedeur isn't coming for the job. He already won it. The Browns' coaching dilemma, trusting tape or trusting tradition. You got to feel for Kevin Stefanski just a little bit here. He walked into this camp expecting a routine QB depth chart. Vet in the driver's seat, third-round rookie as a developmental backup, and Shedeur Sanders as a fun project with upside but low expectations. Textbook, but the tape told a different story. It wasn't just that Shedeur was outperforming Dillon Gabriel. It's that he was doing it consistently. While Gabriel was still adjusting to the tempo of pro defenses, Shedeur was running 2-minute drills with NFL-caliber confidence. Every practice rep became a conversation starter. Every accurate throw under pressure raised an eyebrow. Every subtle leadership moment. A quiet conversation with a receiver, a well-placed audible, a head nod to the O-line, added more weight to the argument. And now Stefanski's trapped between two very real problems. Stick to the original plan, start Gabriel, and risk losing the locker room's faith. Let Shedeur take over and effectively admit that the entire offseason strategy needs rewriting. Either path brings heat, but only one has the potential to turn this team into a surprise contender. Locker room dynamics, when vets take sides. In any NFL locker room, especially during training camp, the energy tells you everything you need to know. And lately, that energy has started shifting around Shedeur. He's not the loudest voice. He's not holding court in front of reporters or flexing a highlight reel every time he finishes a drill. But there's a quiet confidence in the way his teammates have started responding to him. Veteran receivers are warming up to his cadence. Linemen are more vocal after his reps. Defensive players are reportedly talking about him behind the scenes, not with skepticism, but with respect. And that kind of respect doesn't come easy, especially for a rookie, especially for a fifth-rounder. But Shedeur's getting it anyway, not because he demanded it, but because he earned it. That's a dangerous dynamic for a coaching staff to ignore. Once a quarterback earns the trust of the locker room, the rest of the team starts quietly expecting him to lead. And if the coaching staff resists that momentum, players notice, and it erodes the culture from the inside. Ownership pressure is quiet, but real. Jimmy Haslam isn't the kind of owner who micromanages every detail, but he's involved enough to know what's happening. And after watching Shedeur's recent workout with his own eyes, it's safe to say his opinion is changing. There's a simple truth most people don't talk about. Owners don't draft quarterbacks to protect the coach's vision. They draft quarterbacks to win games and sell hope. And right now, Shedeur Sanders represents both. He's exciting, he's unexpected, he's media-friendly, and most importantly, he's producing. That means Haslam is watching every rep now, not just as an observer, but as a decision-maker. And if this franchise finds itself sitting on a potential star just to save face over a third-round pick, that's a decision that could haunt the building for years. Because in the NFL, a quarterback who energizes a team and a fan base is rarer than people realize. And letting that kind of fire die out before it gets going, that's not strategy. That's sabotage. Dillon Gabriel's fork in the road. This isn't a Shedeur versus Gabriel rivalry as much as it is a divergence in momentum. Gabriel still has fans in the building. He's respected for his college production and maturity. No one is saying he's not talented, but he's now stuck in a difficult spot. Because the longer Shedeur continues to shine, the more Gabriel's performances look like placeholders. Even on his best days, he's operating within the boundaries of the offense. He's not changing the rhythm. He's not dictating tempo. He's not creating magic when a play breaks down. He's executing, which is fine, but it's not transformational. And in the NFL, transformation is what separates a QB2 from a QB1. So now Gabriel has a choice. Keep pushing quietly, hoping for an injury or a regression from Shedeur, or start expanding his own game to catch up to a pace that wasn't supposed to exist yet. Because the worst-case scenario for Gabriel isn't that he loses the job. It's that he fades into the background while Sanders becomes the face of the future. Shedeur's football IQ, the wild card nobody predicted. Plenty of people expected Shedeur to have arm strength, to be mobile, to bring some flair. What they didn't expect, the football IQ. In film sessions, he's dissecting coverages before the coaches even ask. He's diagnosing blitz packages on the fly. He's offering suggestions mid-practice that actually get implemented in the next series. That's not rookie behavior. That's field general behavior. One coach reportedly told a teammate, "This kid's already operating at year 3 speed." That's the part the cameras can't fully capture. You see the spirals. You see the touchdowns. But what's happening between the whistles, the processing speed, the decision-making, is where Shedeur is pulling away. And you can't teach that. You can only recognize it. Fan reaction. The underdog story with star power. Cleveland fans are some of the most emotionally invested in the league. They've been burned. They've been patient. And they've been told time and time again to trust the plan. But now that plan is being disrupted by a player nobody expected, and fans are loving it. Training camp clips of Shedeur are circulating like wildfire. Jerseys are already being customized. Chants are getting louder. The Browns haven't had a player like this in years. Not just a promising quarterback, but a captivating one. And if the fans are already this bought in during camp, imagine what one preseason highlight reel will do. The organizational crossroads. So now, the Cleveland Browns have a decision on their hands. And it's not just about naming a starter. It's about who they want to be. Do they want to be the team that stuck to the plan and let a golden opportunity fade into a backup role? Or do they want to be the team that trusted what they saw, leaned into the unexpected, and built something special around it? They've spent years looking for a quarterback who could both lead and inspire. And now they've got one, whether they plan for it or not. The question isn't whether Shedeur Sanders is ready. The question is whether the Browns are. You can feel it building, like the slow churn of a thunderstorm on a hot August day. It starts with a flicker, some rumblings in the distance, but eventually it overtakes the entire sky. That's where the Cleveland Browns find themselves now, because the Shedeur question is no longer just a training camp sideshow. It's the main event. It's not about potential anymore. It's about performance. And it's pushing everyone in the building, from the trainers to the front office, to pick a side, tradition or transformation, the mental game. Why Shedeur feels different. Let's talk about presence. Shedeur Sanders isn't loud. He's not the guy screaming at linemen or throwing tantrums when things go wrong. But he has that presence. The unteachable, unshakable poise that makes grown men stop what they're doing and listen. It's the way he calls plays in the huddle, controlled, commanding. It's the way he moves through progressions, smooth, unhurried, calculated. It's the way he walks off the field, like someone who's seen the future and knows exactly how it ends. He doesn't need to sell himself, because the work is already doing it for him. While other young quarterbacks are still figuring out how to slow the game down, Shedeur looks like he's playing on 0.75x speed. That internal metronome, that clock in his head, it's already aligned with the speed of Sundays. For a rookie, that's rare. For a fifth-round rookie, practically unheard of, rewriting the rookie narrative. The NFL loves its narratives. First-round quarterbacks get endless patience. Third-rounders are seen as projects with upside. Fifth-rounders, they're usually practice squad material, unless proven otherwise. So when Shedeur came into camp, nobody gave him real estate in the starting conversation. He was there to learn, not lead. That's how the league works. But here's the catch. Shedeur didn't get the memo. He showed up like he was a presumed starter, not with arrogance, but with preparation. And now he's forcing everyone to rewrite the narrative in real time. He's not the developmental pick anymore. He's the guy people are whispering about in hallways. The guy who just moved up the internal depth chart without anyone making it official. The guy no one wants to bench, but no one wants to explain either. Breaking the mold. Shedeur isn't supposed to be this polished. Part of what's making this so uncomfortable for the coaching staff is how ready he looks. There's no reason Shedeur should be this polished this early. Most rookies, especially those drafted outside the top 100, struggle with consistency, timing, footwork, reading disguised coverages. Not Shedeur. His mechanics are sharp. His reads are clean. His anticipation is ahead of schedule. And maybe most impressive, he's not just surviving pressure. He's beating it. Multiple camp reps have shown him moving defenders with his eyes, stepping up in collapsing pockets, and delivering dimes between safeties with absolute fearlessness. You're not supposed to get that from a day 3 pick. But here it is, staring the Browns in the face. And that's where the real problem lies. It's not that Shedeur is too raw. It's that he's too good to ignore. Team chemistry is shifting. There's something intangible about how a team starts to mold around its leader. You see it in how the receivers come alive when Shedeur is under center. You see it in the defense going just a little harder, not to test him, but because he's earned their full respect. You hear it in the way the media starts phrasing questions in press conferences. Suddenly, it's not, how's Shedeur adjusting? It's, what do you think about Shedeur running with the ones next week? That shift is subtle, but significant. Because the second a team starts to believe in a young quarterback, it becomes nearly impossible to go back. It doesn't matter what the draft board said in April. It doesn't matter how the reps were split in May. All that matters is who the players trust when the game is on the line. And every day, Shedeur inches closer to becoming that guy. The Gabriel conundrum. when the script gets hijacked. Now, let's talk about the guy on the other side of the story, Dillon Gabriel. This wasn't how it was supposed to go for him. Drafted in the 3rd round, Gabriel was supposed to be the guy who would sit behind a vet, take second team reps, and work his way into a starting role by year 2, if not sooner. He had the pedigree. He had the maturity. He had a skill set that the Browns thought would fit into their offensive scheme. And then Shedeur happened. Now, Gabriel finds himself watching the tide shift. He hasn't necessarily failed. But in the NFL, when someone next to you is thriving, your average suddenly looks a lot more like a red flag. Even in moments when he executes a solid drive, hits his spots, and walks off the field with no mistakes, there's an unspoken yeah, but hanging in the air. Yeah, but did you see what Shedeur just did with the second team? And that shadow only grows with time. Gabriel still has a chance to prove he belongs. But now, the comparison isn't theoretical. It's loud, visible, and unfairly real. That's the cruelty of quarterback competitions. There's rarely room for nuance, only room for results.